The crystalline walls of the Galactic Council chamber reflected light from 47 different star systems. Captain Do-hyun Kim stood at the back of the human delegation area, his military uniform crisp and proper. He watched the various alien species take their seats around the massive circular room. Some floated in specialized atmosphere bubbles. Others climbed onto elevated platforms designed for their unique body structures. The humans had only 2 chairs in this vast chamber, 2 chairs for a species that numbered in the billions. Ambassador Jiwoo Park sat in one of those chairs. Her face showed no emotion as she read through her tablet. Do-hyun knew that look. She was preparing for something bad. High Counselor Vexthar entered the chamber last. The insectoid alien's chitinous body gleamed under the lights. His multiple legs clicked against the polished floor as he moved to the central podium. 4 crystalline eyes surveyed the room with obvious superiority. Vexthar had led the council for 300 years. He had seen species rise and fall. To him, humans were barely worth noticing. The emergency session is now convened, Vexthar announced. His voice came through translator devices that everyone wore. The Karath Empire has requested council attention for a formal declaration. Do-hyun felt his stomach tighten. The Karath were trouble. Everyone knew it. They were a reptilian species that loved conquest. Their empire sprawled across 12 star systems, all taken by force. But they usually picked on species even weaker than themselves. The Karath ambassador stood. His scales were deep crimson and his eyes were cold yellow slits. The Karath Empire hereby declares its intention to annex all human-controlled territories. We will begin military operations within 30 standard cycles. The chamber erupted in murmurs. Do-hyun looked at Jiwoo. She had not moved. She simply continued reading her tablet as if someone had announced a lunch menu change. On what grounds? Asked Counselor Brinna. The aquatic alien's voice bubbled through her water-filled speaking apparatus. She was one of the few counselors who ever showed humans any respect. The Karath ambassador activated a holographic display. Humans are primitives. They have been part of the galactic community for only 200 years. They possess no natural defenses. No claws, no scales. No exoskeletons, no venom. They are soft creatures with no business controlling valuable territory. Images appeared in the air above the chamber. Human bodies were shown in clinical detail. The display highlighted human skin, which could be pierced easily. Human bones, which could be broken. Human vulnerability to temperature, pressure, and toxic atmospheres. Furthermore, the Karath ambassador continued, humans have a small population compared to elder species. They occupy 7 star systems but have only 40 billion individuals across all worlds. The Karath Empire numbers over 300 billion. Our military force is 10 times larger than theirs. This will be a short, decisive campaign that will reallocate resources to a species capable of properly utilizing them. More murmurs filled the chamber. Do-hyun could hear the tone. Many species thought this made sense. Humans were young. Humans were weak. Why should they control valuable colony worlds? Vexthar clicked his mandibles together. Does the human delegation wish to respond? Jiwoo finally looked up from her tablet. She stood slowly and walked to the speaker's platform. Her steps echoed in the suddenly quiet chamber. We do, she said simply. Then speak, Vexthar said. His tone suggested he was already bored. The Karath Empire is making a mistake, Jiwoo said. Her voice was calm and clear. We strongly advise against this action. The Karath ambassador laughed. It was a harsh barking sound. You advise? You who have no standing armies compared to ours? You who have no warships that match our dreadnoughts? You advise us? Jiwoo did not react to the mockery. Yes, we advise you. We have experience in this area. Experience. Vexthar leaned forward on his speaking platform. Humans have fought no major wars since joining the galactic community. What experience do you claim? We have fought ourselves, Jiwoo said quietly. The chamber fell silent. That was not the response anyone expected. Elaborate, Vexthar commanded. Jiwoo touched her tablet and sent a file to the central display. Numbers appeared. Dates. Statistics. Humans have fought in hundreds of major conflicts throughout our recorded history. We have fought over territory, resources, religion, and ideology. We have developed thousands of weapon systems. We have created tactical doctrines for every possible combat scenario. We have— You fought among yourselves, the Karath ambassador interrupted. That proves our point. You are a divided, chaotic species. You will fall easily to an organized force. Jiwoo met his eyes. We unified, eventually. But we remember everything we learned during those conflicts. Every tactic, every strategy, every hard lesson written in blood on our own soil. We are trying to warn you that attacking us will not go the way you expect. Do-hyun wanted to speak. He wanted to show them the real military assessments, the truth about human capabilities. But Vexthar had already made up his mind. Do-hyun could see it in the way the High Counselor's attention had drifted to other matters. The Council will vote on intervention, Vexthar announced. All those in favor of preventing Kareth military action against human space? Brinna raised her voting appendage. 2 other species joined her. 3 votes out of 47. All those in favor of maintaining neutrality? The rest of the chamber voted yes. Neutrality meant the Council would do nothing. The Karath were free to attack. The vote is decided, Vexthar declared. This is now a territorial dispute between 2 sovereign nations. The Council will not intervene. The Kareth Empire may proceed with its planned operations. The Kareth ambassador showed his teeth in what passed for a smile among his species. We will be merciful in victory. Human survivors will be relocated to reservation worlds. Jiwoo gathered her tablet and turned away from the podium. She walked back to where Do-hyun stood. Her face remained expressionless, but he could see the tension in her shoulders. Ambassador Park, Vexthar called out. Does humanity accept these terms? Jiwoo stopped. She turned back to face the chamber. For a long moment she said nothing. Then she spoke words that would be remembered for generations. The Kareth Empire has made its choice. The Galactic Council has made its choice. Humanity will now make its choice. We accept nothing. We will defend our territory. We will defend our people. And when this is over, the Council will understand why we tried to warn you. She looked directly at the Karath ambassador. You have 30 cycles before your attack begins. Use that time to reconsider, please. The Kareth ambassador laughed again. Other species joined in. The idea of humans posing any real threat seemed absurd to them. Jiwoo walked out of the chamber. Do-hyun followed her. The massive doors sealed behind them with a deep resonating sound. They walked down the long corridor in silence. Finally, when they were far from any listening devices, Do-hyun spoke. They did not listen. No, Jiwoo agreed. They never do. What now? Jiwoo looked at him. For the first time, her mask of calm cracked. What showed through was not fear. It was something colder, something harder. Now we do what humans have always done when someone threatens our survival. We fight, and we show them exactly why picking a fight with us was the worst decision they could have made. Do-hyun nodded. He touched the communication device in his ear. Send the signal to Earth. Tell the Admiral the Council refused intervention. Tell him to begin preparations. As they walked toward their ship, Jiwoo whispered words that only Do-hyun could hear. We tried to warn them. We really did. Admiral Hyunwoo Choi stood on the bridge of the UHSF Indomitable, watching Earth rotate slowly below. The blue and green planet looked peaceful from orbit. It was hard to imagine the centuries of violence that had shaped the species living on that world. But Hyunwoo remembered. He had studied every war, every conflict, every bloody lesson that humanity had learned. The communication alert chimed. Hyunwoo touched the control panel. This is Admiral Choi. Signal received from Ambassador Park, the communications officer reported. The Council refused intervention. The Karath are coming. Hyunwoo closed his eyes for a moment. He had hoped reason would prevail, but hope was a luxury that humans learned to live without long ago. Begin mobilization, he ordered. Contact all fleet commanders. Activate defensive protocols, and get me Dr. Kwan immediately. Within minutes, Dr. Minho Kwan appeared on the screen. The scientist looked tired. He had been working for weeks preparing for this possibility. They are actually doing it? Minho asked. They are actually attacking us. Yes, Hyunwoo confirmed. How are the preparations? Complete. All ships have been fitted with the new systems. The Kareth will expect one type of fight. We will give them something very different. Hyunwoo nodded. How long until they reach Novo Sol? 15 days, maybe 16. Novo Sol was humanity's newest colony world. 50 million people lived there. It was also the closest human world to Karath space. It would be their first target. On Novo Sol, Young-Soo Han was finishing his shift at the colony's main power plant. He was an engineer who had moved to the colony 5 years ago looking for a fresh start. The planet was beautiful. Wide oceans, breathable air, and room to build a new life. He had just started to feel like this place was home. His communication device buzzed. Emergency alert. All citizens report to designated shelters. Young-Soo felt his blood turn cold. Everyone knew what an emergency alert meant. The Karath were coming. He ran home through streets that were already filling with people. Everyone was moving quickly but not panicking. Humanity had drilled for this. Every colony had emergency procedures. Every citizen knew their role. His apartment was small but comfortable. Young-Soo grabbed his emergency pack. Food, water, medical supplies, and something else, a weapon, a simple plasma rifle that every colonist was required to keep and maintain. Young-Soo had thought it was paranoid when he first arrived. Now he was grateful for the requirement. Aboard the indomitable, Corporal Yoonji Lee was checking her equipment. She was a Marine, part of the ship's boarding and security force. Around her, other Marines prepared their gear with practiced efficiency. "You really think they'll come at us?" asked Private Taman, a young soldier who had never seen combat. "They're coming," Yoonji replied. She had fought in the corporate wars on Mars 15 years ago. She knew what combat looked like. The question is whether they understand what they're walking into. "We're outnumbered 10-1, Taman said nervously. Yoonji smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. "Kid, humans have been outnumbered before. We're still here. The things that outnumbered us? Most of them are extinct." Admiral Hyunwoo called a meeting of all ship commanders. Faces appeared on screens around the bridge. Men and women of every ethnicity and background. But they all shared one thing. They were all veterans. They had all fought in the various conflicts that plagued human space before unification. "The Karath are sending 300 warships," Hyunwoo began. "Intelligence reports they expect this to be a quick campaign. They believe we will surrender after losing Novo Sol." "How many ships do we have?" asked Commander Isul, who led the defense fleet near Mars. 40 ships will intercept at Novo Sol. Another 60 are being repositioned to defend our other colonies. The rest of our fleet will remain at Earth." The commanders looked shocked. 40 ships against 300 seemed like suicide. "Admiral, that's not enough," someone began. Hyunwoo held up his hand. "Let me finish. Our ships are different from what the Karath expect," Dr. Kwan explained. Minho appeared on screen. "The Karath use technology that is approximately 800 years old. Their ships are powerful but slow. Their weapons are effective but predictable. Their tactics have not evolved in centuries." He pulled up technical diagrams. "Human technology is different. We have only been in space for 300 years. But our technology evolved through constant warfare. We had to innovate or die. Our ships are faster, more maneuverable, and equipped with systems the Karath have never encountered." "Such as?" asked Commander Isul. "Electronic warfare packages that can disable enemy sensors. Kinetic weapons that bypass energy shields. Missile systems with adaptive AI targeting. And most importantly, our ships are designed to be operated by smaller crews, which means we can build more of them faster." Hyunwoo took over. "But technology alone will not win this fight. What will win is how we use it. The Karath fight with honor codes. They announce their attacks. They give warnings. They follow rules." He paused. "We don't." The commanders understood. Humanity had learned warfare in the hardest school possible. Fighting each other. And humans fighting humans meant no rules, no mercy, and no limit to tactical creativity. "We will use every advantage," Hyunwoo continued. "We will deceive them. We will ambush them. We will make them afraid. And we will show the galaxy why attacking humans is a mistake." On Novo Sol, Young-Soo joined thousands of other colonists in the underground shelters. But not everyone went underground. He saw volunteers gathering at militia stations. Ordinary people picking up weapons and joining the Planetary Defense Force. An older woman named Jury was organizing the volunteers. She had gray hair and kind eyes, but her voice was firm. "The military will handle space combat. Our job is to prepare for ground invasion if they break through. Every street will be defended. Every building will be a fortress. We know this land. They don't. That's our advantage." Young-Soo found himself stepping forward. "I can help. I know the power grid. I can make sure our defenses stay operational." Jury nodded. "Good, we need people like you. The Karath think we'll just surrender. They're going to learn something about humans." "What's that?" a young volunteer asked. "That we're really, really bad at giving up," Jury replied. Lieutenant Sujin Yoon sat in the cockpit of her fighter craft aboard the Indomitable. Her call sign was Phoenix, earned during a training accident where she managed to restart her fighter's engines after complete system failure. She had saved herself and her craft through skill and absolute refusal to accept death. Her squadron was the first line of defense. 12 fighters against an armada. But Sujin was not afraid. She had watched the historical records. Human pilots in ancient times had faced similar odds and somehow survived. Her great-grandmother had been a fighter pilot during the Unification Wars. The old woman had told Sujin stories about dogfights over burning cities. Remember, her great-grandmother had said, "Fear is useful. It keeps you sharp, but never let it control you. When you're outnumbered, that's when you have to be the most aggressive. Because the enemy expects you to be afraid, so you do the opposite. You attack first." Sujin checked her weapon systems one more time. Everything was ready. Admiral Hyunwoo received the final intelligence report. The Kareth fleet had left their staging area. They would arrive at Novo Sol in 12 days. He opened a communication channel to all human forces. Military and civilian. Everyone needed to hear this. This is Admiral Choi. In 12 days we will face an enemy that believes we are weak. They believe we will surrender quickly. They believe conquering human space will be easy. They are wrong about all of it. He paused, choosing his words carefully. Humans have survived ice ages, plagues, world wars, and near extinction. We survived because we never stopped fighting. We never gave up. And we learned to be very, very good at protecting what is ours. His voice hardened. The Karath are about to learn what the rest of the galaxy forgot. Humans are not peaceful because we cannot fight. We are peaceful because we know the cost of war better than anyone. But when someone brings war to us, we will show them exactly why picking a fight with humanity was their last mistake. The transmission ended. Across human space, millions of people heard those words. Soldiers, sailors, pilots, and ordinary citizens. They all began preparing for what was coming. In the Galactic Council chambers, Councillor Brinna watched the long-range sensors. The Kareth fleet was moving. In a few days, they would reach human space. She wondered if anyone on the Council understood what they had just allowed to happen. She had studied human history when they first joined the galactic community. What she found had disturbed her deeply. Humans had fought wars that killed hundreds of millions of their own kind. They had created weapons capable of destroying their entire planet. And they had done all of this to each other. What will happen when they fight someone else? She whispered to herself. Soon everyone would know the answer. The Kareth fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Novo Sol system. 300 warships, each one massive and intimidating. They had conquered a dozen species using these same vessels. The Kareth crews were confident. This would be another easy victory. Fleet Commander Rakshar stood on the bridge of his flagship. The Endless Conquest. His yellow eyes scanned the tactical display. 40 human ships waited near the colony world. Just 40. He almost felt disappointed. Pathetic, he hissed to his second officer. They could not even muster a proper defense fleet. This will be over before midday. The communication system activated. A human voice spoke in Kareth language. Kareth fleet, this is Admiral Hyunwoo Choi of the United Human Space Force. You are entering sovereign human territory. Turn back now or face military action. Rakshar laughed. Several of his officers joined in. Human Admiral, your 40 ships cannot stop us. Surrender now and your people will be treated fairly in relocation. There was a pause. Then the human admiral replied with words that made Rakshar's blood run hot. No, you've been warned. What happens next is on you. The human ships began moving. They did not advance toward the Kareth fleet. Instead, they scattered in different directions at speeds that shocked Rakshar. How were they moving so fast? All ships, weapons range, Rakshar commanded. Fire when ready. The Kareth fleet opened fire. Energy beams lanced across space. But the human ships were no longer where the Karath targeting systems expected them to be. They twisted and turned with impossible agility. Most of the Karath shots missed completely. Then the human ships returned fire. Missiles erupted from the human vessels. But these were not ordinary missiles. They jinked and weaved through space, avoiding Karath point defense systems. When they struck, they bypassed shields and punched through armor with devastating effect. 3 Karath ships exploded in the first exchange. 3 ships destroyed by a force that should have been helpless. What just happened? Rakshar demanded. His tactical officer was frantically checking his displays. Commander, their weapons are bypassing our shields somehow, and their ships are faster than anything in our database. Rakshar felt the first stirring of doubt, but he crushed it. Numbers would prevail. All ships advance. Overwhelm them with firepower. The Karath fleet surged forward, but the human ships did not engage in a traditional battle line. They split into small groups and began attacking from multiple angles. The Karath formation, designed to project maximum firepower forward, suddenly had enemies on every side. Aboard the Indomitable, Admiral Hyunwoo watched the tactical display with satisfaction. They fight like every battle they have ever won. Slow, predictable, honorable. They're learning now, his tactical officer noted. Several Karath ships were trying to break formation to chase human vessels. Good, confused enemies make mistakes. Begin Phase 2. Lieutenant Sujin Yoon and her fighter squadron screamed into the combat zone. The Karath had no idea that human capital ships carried fighter craft. It was not a tactic common in galactic warfare, but humans had learned centuries ago that small, fast attack craft could devastate larger vessels. Phoenix Squadron, pick your targets, Sujin commanded. Remember your training. Fast runs, then out before they can track you. Her fighter dove toward a Karath cruiser. Her weapon systems locked on. She fired a spread of missiles and then immediately twisted away at angles that would have killed a Karath pilot from the G-forces. Human pilots trained in high-gravity environments. They could handle maneuvers that other species could not. The missiles struck the cruiser's engines. It began to list, damaged and vulnerable. Splash 1, Sujin reported. Phoenix 2, you're up. One by one, her squadron struck and faded. The Karath tried to target them, but the fighters were too small and too fast. Within minutes, 6 more Karath ships were disabled or destroyed. Rakshar watched his fleet falling apart. This was impossible. How were they doing this? Then something even worse happened. A massive impact shook his flagship. Alarms blared throughout the ship. Boarding pods! An officer screamed. We have human boarding pods attached to decks 9 through 12. Rakshar could not believe what he was hearing. Boarding actions? In modern space combat? That was ancient history. No civilized species used boarding tactics anymore. But humans did. Corporal Yoonji Lee felt the pod clamp onto the Karath hull. Explosive charges blew a hole through the armor. She was first through the breach, weapon raised. Behind her, 20 Marines followed. The Karath crew was not prepared for this. Why would they be? Boarding actions belonged in history books, but Yoonji's unit had trained for this exact scenario. Humans remembered all their old tactics. They just waited for the right moment to use them. Move fast, Yoonji commanded. Hit their reactor control and engineering. Make them choose between fighting us or saving their ship. The Marines split into teams. They moved through the Karath vessel with brutal efficiency. The Karath security forces tried to stop them, but they were not trained for close-quarters combat. Humans were. Yoonji's team reached the reactor control room. They planted explosive charges with timers. 5 minutes. Enough time to evacuate, but not enough time to stop the countdown and repel boarders. All teams extraction, Yoonji called. Back to the pods now. They ran back through the corridors. Several Marines provided covering fire. One did not make it. Private Taman took a plasma bolt to the chest. He went down hard. Yoonji grabbed him and dragged him back. Not leaving you, kid. They made it to the pods with 30 seconds to spare. The pods detached and blasted back toward the Indomitable. Behind them, the Karath flagship's reactor exploded. The massive vessel broke apart in a ball of white fire. Rakshar was dead. The Karath fleet lost its commander in an attack method they thought was obsolete. On the surface of Novo Sol, Young Soo Han monitored the battle from the underground command center. The space battle was going better than expected, but some Karath ships had broken through. They were landing ground forces on the northern continent. All militia forces prepare for engagement. Jury's voice came through the communication system. Remember your training. Give them nothing easy. Young-soo checked his weapon one more time. He was not a soldier. He was an engineer. But he was also human. And humans had a long history of ordinary people becoming warriors when necessary. The Karath ground forces landed expecting minimal resistance. They were wrong. The first Karath unit advanced into what looked like an abandoned city. The humans had evacuated. This would be a simple occupation. Then the shooting started. Humans fired from windows, rooftops, and hidden positions. The Karath tried to return fire, but they could not see their attackers. Every building was a potential threat. Every corner could hide an ambush. This was guerrilla warfare. Humans had perfected it over centuries of conflict. The Karath had never experienced anything like it. A Karath squad entered a building to clear it. Young-Su was waiting. He had rigged the building's power systems to overload. When the Karath were inside, he triggered the trap. Electrical discharge swept through the structure. The Karath, wearing metal armor, conducted electricity perfectly. They died without firing a shot. Young-Su felt sick. He had just killed living beings, but he pushed the feeling down. There would be time for guilt later. Right now, there was only survival. In the Galactic Council observation station, species watched the battle with growing alarm. The Karath were losing badly. Counselor Brinina watched the tactical display. The Karath fleet had lost over 70 ships. The human fleet had lost only 6. The numbers did not make sense. A military analyst from the Draxian species was narrating for the council. The humans are using tactics we have not seen in modern warfare. Electronic attacks to blind sensors, boarding actions, fighter craft swarms, and their ground forces are employing what our database calls asymmetric warfare. The Karath do not know how to fight this type of enemy. Why not? Asked Vexthar. The High Counselor looked shaken. Because the Karath have only fought species that fight like them. Honorable, direct, predictable. The analyst paused. Humans do not fight like that. They fight like they are still at war with themselves. No rules, no mercy, just victory or death. Counselor Brinna spoke quietly. We allowed this to happen. We let the Karath attack a species we did not understand. It's only one battle, Vexthar said, but his voice lacked conviction. No, Brinna replied. This is not one battle. This is a lesson. And the Karath are learning why you never attack a species that evolved through constant warfare. In space above Novo Sol, the Karath fleet was in full retreat. They had lost over 100 ships. The human fleet pursued them, continuing to strike at damaged vessels. Admiral Hyunwoo gave the order to let them go. Do not chase beyond the system boundary. Let them report back. Let them tell their leaders what they found here. Sir, we could destroy more of them, his tactical officer noted. I know, Hyunwoo replied. But we need them to spread the word. We need the galaxy to understand that attacking humans comes with a price. He opened a communication channel to all human forces. Well done. All forces, stand down from combat alert. Begin rescue operations for survivors on both sides. The last part surprised some of his officers. Rescuing enemy survivors? Hyunwoo saw their confusion. 3 months had passed since the Battle of Novo Sol. The war had spread across human space like wildfire. The Karath Empire, humiliated by their initial defeat, had committed more forces. They would not accept that primitives had defeated them. Their pride demanded victory, but victory was proving impossible to achieve. Ambassador Taehyun Song stood in the Galactic Council chamber once again. This time he was not pleading for help. He was there to deliver a report. The Council had demanded to know the status of what they were now calling the human-Karath conflict. Taehyun was older than Jiwoo Park and far less diplomatic. He had fought in the Mars corporate wars 40 years ago. He had seen what humans could do to each other. Now the galaxy would see it too. The war continues, Taehyun began. His voice was flat and emotionless. The Karath Empire currently occupies 3 human colony worlds. They have destroyed 7 human orbital stations and claim they are winning. Vexthar leaned forward. Then why call this meeting? It seems the Karath assessment was correct. Taehyun's eyes were cold. I am not finished. The Karath occupy those 3 worlds, yes, but let me tell you what that occupation costs them. He activated a holographic display. Numbers appeared. Casualty reports, supply chain data, ship losses. For every human colony they take, the Karath lose an average of 4,000 soldiers. They lose ships at a rate of 8 to 1. They lose equipment, supplies, and most importantly, they lose morale. How is this possible? Asked a counselor from the Nexian species. The Karath have superior numbers. Numbers mean nothing if you cannot use them effectively, Taehyun replied. The Karath fight the way they have always fought. They land troops, occupy cities, and expect surrender. But humans do not surrender. We fight back. Every street, every building, every inch of ground costs them blood. He changed the display. Video footage appeared. It showed Karath troops trying to move through a human city. Explosions erupted from buildings. Gunfire came from unexpected angles. The Karath soldiers looked terrified, constantly scanning for threats that could come from anywhere. This is what we call guerrilla warfare, Taehyun explained. The Karath cannot tell the difference between a civilian and a soldier until weapons start firing. They cannot secure any territory because humans will not stop resisting. Counselor Brinna watched the footage with horror. Your civilians are fighting? Yes. Every human old enough to hold a weapon is part of the defense. This is not new for us. We have done this before in our own wars. The Karath are learning what occupying human territory actually means. On the planet Taeyang Colony, war correspondent Narration moved through a destroyed city with her camera drone. She was broadcasting to the entire galaxy. Several alien species watched her reports to understand what was happening in this strange war. Nari wore body armor and carried a weapon, just like the soldiers around her. She had learned quickly that journalists on human battlefields needed to protect themselves. This is Narration reporting from Taeyang Colony, she spoke into her recorder. The Karath captured this city 6 weeks ago. They thought they had won. But look around. This is not occupation. This is a nightmare. The camera showed destroyed Karath vehicles, burned buildings that had been turned into fortified positions. Karath soldiers moving in tight groups, weapons always ready, eyes always scanning. A human resistance fighter named Kiha joined Nari. He was 17 years old. His family had been killed in the initial Karath bombardment. Tell them what it is like, Nari said to him. Kiha looked at the camera. His eyes were much older than his years. The Karath think they own this city. They do not. We know every alley, every sewer, every building. They sleep in fear because they know we are always watching, always waiting. They cannot win here. They can only bleed. Nari's broadcast went out across the galaxy. Millions of beings watched a human child explain how to fight an occupying force. Many species found it disturbing. Some found it fascinating. All found it terrifying. In the Galactic Council chambers, a special session was called. The Karath Empire had requested emergency intervention. But this time they were not asking for permission to attack. They were asking the Council to force humanity to stop. The new Karath ambassador, Teshkan, addressed the Council with desperation in his voice. Humans are violating the laws of warfare. They use civilians as soldiers. They booby-trap their own cities. They show no mercy to prisoners. We showed mercy at Novo Sol, Taehyun interrupted. We rescued your survivors. We treated your wounded. You responded by attacking 3 more of our colonies. You are barbarians, Teshkan shouted. You fight without honor. Taehyun stood slowly. His voice dropped to a dangerous quiet. Honor? You want to talk about honor? Your forces bombarded civilian centers on Taeyang Colony. Your troops executed prisoners on Minseo Station. You started this war claiming we were too primitive to deserve our own worlds. And now you complain that we fight back too effectively? He walked toward the center of the chamber. Every eye was on him. Let me tell you something about humans. We do not have a word that translates to your concept of honor. We have a different word. Survival. We survive. We have survived ice ages, plagues, asteroid impacts, and each other. We survive because we adapt, we learn, and we never ever give up. Taehyun activated another display. This one showed human military doctrine. You want to know our strategy? Total warfare. Every human is part of the defense. Every resource goes to the war effort. Every tactic, no matter how brutal, is on the table. Because when you threaten human survival, we stop being civilized. We become what we had to be for thousands of years to survive on our harsh world. We become hunters, killers, survivors. The chamber was silent. You should have listened to Ambassador Park, Taehyun continued. She tried to warn you. She told you we had experience in warfare, but you thought she meant simple border conflicts. She meant something much worse. She meant we have spent our entire history perfecting the art of killing each other, and now you have given us a different target. Dr. Minho Kwan was giving a presentation to the Council's Military Analysis Committee. He stood before representatives of 15 different species, explaining human military technology. You asked how we develop weapons so quickly, Minho began. The answer is simple. We have never stopped developing them. While you had peace for centuries, we had constant conflict. While your technology stagnated, ours evolved. He showed diagrams of human ships. Our vessels are built using lessons learned from hundreds of space battles. Not battles against aliens, battles against other humans. We know how to destroy ships because we have been destroying each other's ships for 2 centuries. A Draxian military officer spoke up. But you're unified. You have one government now. Yes, Minho agreed. But we remember everything we learned before unification. Every tactic, every weapon, every dirty trick. We just stopped using them on each other. Until the Karath gave us a reason to use them again. He pulled up another display. This one made several council members recoil in shock. This is called Mutual Dawn. It is a final option. If humanity faces extinction, we deploy this. What is it? The Draxian asked nervously. Automated ships equipped with biological weapons. They launch toward enemy homeworlds. If we fall, they arrive decades later and ensure our enemies fall with us. It is based on an old human concept called mutually assured destruction. If we cannot survive, neither can you. The silence in the room was absolute. You would commit genocide? Someone whispered. We would ensure that attacking humanity has consequences, Minho replied coldly. We do not want to use this. But we will if we must. Because the one thing humans understand completely is that survival sometimes requires terrible choices. Narration continued her broadcasts. She showed the galaxy what war with humans really looked like. She showed Karath soldiers experiencing psychological breakdowns. She showed human children being trained in weapons use. She showed cities turned into death traps where every window could hide a sniper. One broadcast showed a Karath commander being interviewed. The reptilian looked haunted. We cannot win, he admitted on camera. We can take their worlds, but we cannot hold them. They will not surrender. They will not negotiate. They just keep fighting. Every day we lose soldiers to attacks we never see coming. Every night we hear them outside our camps, making noise, keeping us awake, breaking our spirits. The commander looked directly at the camera. Tell the other species, do not fight humans. Just do not. Whatever they ask, give it to them. Because once the fighting starts, they will not stop until you are broken or they are dead, and they are very, very hard to kill. That broadcast changed everything. Other species began analyzing human history in detail. What they found terrified them. Humans had fought a war that lasted 100 years over religious differences. They had created nuclear weapons and nearly destroyed themselves. They had fought over resources, ideology, and territory with casualty counts in the millions. And through it all, they had never stopped innovating. Every war taught them new ways to fight, new weapons, new tactics. They evolved through conflict. Counselor Brinna gave a speech that would be remembered for generations. We made a terrible mistake. We looked at humans and saw a young species, primitive, weak. We saw that they had no natural weapons and assumed they could not fight. The Galactic Council chamber had never been this full. Every species sent representatives. Even species that normally stayed neutral wanted to witness this moment. The vote that would end the human Karath War. Ambassador Jiwoo Park sat in the human delegation area. Next to her was Captain Do-Hyun Kim, now promoted to general. Behind them stood Ambassador Taehyun Song and Dr. Minho Kwon. The human delegation was small, but everyone in the chamber watched them with a mixture of respect and fear. The Karath delegation sat across the chamber. They looked broken. Their ambassador Teshkan kept his eyes down. The proud reptilian species had been humbled in a way they never imagined possible. High Counselor Vexthar called the session to order. The insectoid's voice was different now. The arrogance was gone. 5 months of watching humans wage war had changed everyone's perspective. We are here to vote on immediate cessation of hostilities between the Karath Empire and humanity, Vexthar announced. The Council has reviewed all reports. We have witnessed the conduct of this war. We now call for a vote. But before the vote, Counselor Brinna requested permission to speak. It was granted. The aquatic alien's voice bubbled through her translator. Before we vote, the Council must acknowledge our failure. We allowed this war to begin. We dismissed human warnings. We assumed we understood a species we had barely studied. The consequences have been severe. She activated a display. Statistics appeared. The Karath had lost over 60% of their military fleet. They had suffered casualties numbering in the hundreds of thousands. 3 of their colony worlds faced internal rebellion. Their economy was collapsing. The Karath Empire is broken, Brinna stated. Not because humans have superior numbers. Not because humans have better technology. But because humans fight in ways we cannot comprehend. They fight like existence itself is at stake. Because for them it is. She turned to face the human delegation. Humanity tried to warn us. Ambassador Park told us they had experience in warfare. We did not listen. We did not understand. Now we do. Vexthar spoke again. All those in favor of immediate ceasefire with full council enforcement. Every species voted yes. 47 votes, unanimous. The motion passes. The war is over. The Karath Empire will withdraw from all human territories immediately. Reparations will be determined by an independent council tribunal. Tishkan stood slowly. His voice was barely a whisper. The Karath Empire accepts these terms. It was the first time in their history that the Karath had surrendered to anyone. But Jiwoo was not finished. She stood and requested permission to speak. The war is over, she began. But the galaxy has changed. We cannot go back to the way things were. Humanity has been revealed. You have seen what we are capable of. You have seen what we are willing to do to survive. This knowledge cannot be ignored. She walked to the center of the chamber. Humanity has demands. The word sent ripples through the council. Demands? From the species that was supposed to be weak? First, Jiwoo continued, humanity requires a permanent seat on this council. With full voting rights, we will no longer be dismissed as primitives. We have proven we are capable of defending our interests. Vexthar hesitated. That is highly unusual. Council seats are earned over centuries. We earned it in 5 months, Jiwoo replied coldly. We earned it by showing the galaxy what happens when you underestimate us. Vote on it now, the vote was called. It passed with only 3 abstentions. Humanity had a council seat. Second, Jiwoo continued, the council will establish new protocols for warfare. Any species declaring war must first submit to human military analysis. We will review their tactics, their preparations, and their understanding of what modern warfare actually means. Too many species in this galaxy have forgotten what war truly costs. This caused more debate, but eventually it passed. The galaxy had seen human warfare. They did not want to see it again. Third, Jiwoo said, humanity offers our military expertise to any species that requests it. We will train peacekeeping forces. We will share tactical knowledge. We will help build defensive systems, not to spread violence but to prevent it, because we know the cost of war better than anyone here. General Do-hyun stood to address this point. We do not want to be warriors. We want peace, but we learned long ago that peace requires the capability to defend it. We will help other species develop that capability, so that what happened to the Karath never happens again. The vote passed. 6 months later, Ambassador Taehyun Song visited Earth. He stood in the military cemetery where soldiers from the war were buried, thousands of graves stretched in neat rows. Each one represented a human who had died defending their species. Counselor Brinna had asked to accompany him. She wanted to understand humans better. You lost 47,000 in this war, she said quietly. Yet you could have lost millions if you had not fought. Yes, Taehyun agreed. That is always the calculation. How many will die if we fight versus how many will die if we surrender. We chose to fight. Do you regret it? Taehyun was quiet for a long moment. We regret that it was necessary. We regret every life lost, but we do not regret defending ourselves. That is the difference between humans and many other species. We understand that sometimes violence is the answer, not the preferred answer, not the desired answer, but sometimes the only answer. On Novo Sol, young Suhan had returned to his engineering job. The colony was being rebuilt. The scars of war were slowly fading, but they would never fully disappear. He visited the memorial every week. 47,000 names were carved into black stone. He would find the name of Juri, the old woman who had organized the militia. She had died in the final Karath ground assault, buying time for civilians to evacuate. We won, Youngsu whispered to the stone. We won because people like you refused to give up. Thank you. Lieutenant Sujin Yoon, now Commander Yoon, was training the first mixed-species fighter squadron. Pilots from 6 different alien races were learning human combat tactics. They struggled with the aggressive maneuvers and the concept of sacrificing individual safety for mission success. Why do you fly like you want to die? Asked a Quelix pilot. We do not want to die, Sujin replied. We want to win. There is a difference. Sometimes winning requires taking risks. Sometimes it requires pushing past fear. That is what we teach. The alien pilot slowly began to understand. Human training was harsh because human history had been harsh. Every tactic had been learned in blood. Every maneuver had been tested in real combat. This was not theory. This was survival knowledge passed down through generations. Corporal Yoonji Lee retired from military service. She opened a small restaurant on Earth called The Last Warning. It became popular with both human veterans and visiting aliens who wanted to understand human culture. One evening, a young Kareth visited. He was a soldier who had fought at Novo Sol. He approached Yoonji nervously. "I fought against your species," he said. "I saw things that haunt my dreams. I need to understand. Why are humans so good at war?" Yoonji poured him a drink. "Because we have been fighting for our entire existence. Not just fighting other species. Fighting our own planet. Fighting each other. Fighting to survive. War is not something we do occasionally. It is something woven into our history." "Does it ever end?" the Karath asked. "Will humans always be warriors?" "We hope not," Yoonji replied. "We want peace, but we learned a long time ago that hoping for peace is not enough. You must be capable of defending it. That is what we tried to tell the Council. But nobody listened until the Karath attacked." The young Karath lowered his head. "We made a terrible mistake." "Yes," Yoonji agreed. "But you survived it. Learn from it. Teach your people. Make sure it never happens again." In the Galactic Council chambers, the new human seat was occupied by Ambassador Jiwoo Park. She sat at the high table with the other permanent council members. Around her were species that had existed for thousands of years longer than humanity, but they treated her as an equal now. A dispute arose between two species over a border colony. Tensions were rising. War seemed possible, Jiwoo spoke. "Before any military action is considered, both species will submit to human military analysis. We will evaluate your preparedness, your tactics, and your understanding of what you are about to start." Both species agreed immediately. Nobody wanted to fight without understanding the full cost. The galaxy had learned that lesson. Dr. Minho Kwon continued his work developing defensive technologies. But now he collaborated with scientists from other species. They were creating new systems designed to protect rather than destroy. It was a different kind of innovation. One focused on preservation rather than elimination. "Do you think humans can change?" A Draxian scientist asked him one day. "Can you stop being warriors?" Minho considered the question carefully. "We can choose when to fight and when not to fight. We can choose to use our knowledge for defense rather than offense. But we cannot unmake our history. We cannot forget what we learned. And honestly, the galaxy needs us to remember. Because if nobody remembers the cost of war, then war becomes inevitable." General Do-Yoon Kim stood on the bridge of a new ship, the Covenant. It was the first joint human-alien vessel. Its crew was mixed, representing 12 different species. He was training them in coordinated operations.